Now, since its introduction in 2009, this Panamera has undergone a number of changes. Well, now comes the third generation, and while there are some worthwhile stylistic updates on the outside, it's what's beneath this shiny sheet metal that really makes the difference. The rollout of the third gen will start with the Panamera and Panamera 4. In coming months, the new E-Hybrid will arrive. The big news, well, it's the 2025 Panamera Turbo E-Hybrid. Large, luxurious sedans are not supposed to lay waste to a racetrack, but the Turbo sure did, and so much more. It'll also arrive with a better style, a slick new cabin, and more than a few surprises. One of the biggest improvements is found in the active suspension. Now, the old one used active anti-roll bars. It was pretty good at controlling unwanted body roll. This new active ride control system, well, it blows it away. First of all, it ditches the anti-roll bars and uses 400 volts to alter the damping characteristics. So it becomes fully active. It can lift a wheel, drop a wheel, tilt it into a corner, you name it. It really does make this thing world-class in terms of its ride and handling. Unlike many active suspension systems, this one is actually active. It's like there's a skyhook supporting the body, so it remains flat and impervious to the rigors of a rough road. In the end, it delivers superb ride comfort and wonderful handling. The secret, well, they're the 5 kilowatt electric pumps fitted to each wheel. The system checks things 1,000 times a second and can make adjustments to the suspension in just 50 milliseconds. The key here is the active dampers control both the compression and rebound damping by lifting or pushing down a wheel as needed. To demonstrate how well it isolates the riders from the road, Porsche had us run a series of humps at 50 kilometers an hour. Normally this would pummel the riders into submission. Active Ride smoothed things out to the point where I was able to shoot a handheld video of the exercise from the passenger seat. Beyond that, Active Ride can lift the Panamera to ease access. It also lifts the front of the car under hard braking to reduce the G-forces acting on the rider, because there's now no longer any pronounced nosedive when the brake pedal is mashed. It does the opposite under hard acceleration, so there's none of the usual squat. In the end, a road that would rock a regular suspension simply does not faze the Panamera's active design. To prove how much the Panamera suspension can make the car dance, a demonstration vehicle was lifted and lowered from the front and rear ends with surprising speed. No, it will not allow the owner to enter a low-rider dancing competition, but it sure did look pretty cool. So far it's been all about street performance. Hit the racetrack and the active dampers really do come into their own. Throw in the rear steer and the magic it weaves and the Panamera blazed through some tricky corners. More impressive, however, was how it handled an uphill climb that crested with a kink to the right before dropping away. Normally this would unload the suspension and make the car light to the point where the driver needs a touch of opposite lock to prevent the back end from going walkabout. The Active Ride suspension made this tricky section disappear. It was pretty much flat out and no white knuckles. The other part of the Turbo E-Hybrid is the twin-turbo V8. It makes 512 horsepower and 567 pound-feet of torque. The electric motor that's sandwiched between the engine and transmission chips in with another 187 horsepower and 331 pound-feet of torque. The result? Well, try 670 horsepower and 685 pound-feet of torque on for size. Now, the Turbo E-Hybrid's powertrain really is very fast indeed. 3.2 seconds to 100k. Now, if you stand on it, 80 to 120 comes in just 2 seconds flat. Yes, they're using the electrics for fuel economy benefits, but you know, the most part, it's all about performance. The new look Porsche driver experience cabin concept represents a big step forward. It brings a much more focused cockpit. Ahead of the driver is a new curved and reconfigurable 12.6-inch dashboard. It delivers the information in a cleaner and less cluttered manner than before. To the right is the central infotainment touchscreen. What's different is many of the functions from My Porsche app have been migrated over to Apple CarPlay. This allows things like the climate control functions to be controlled through CarPlay or Siri. Not to be left out, the passenger now gets a new and optional 10.9-inch display. To prevent it from being a distraction, the screen is not visible from the driver's seat. All of this is for the better, but the overwhelming impression is the lack of buttons, especially on the center console. The shifter has been moved away, and the array of buttons and touch points of old have disappeared. Now there's just a clean set of climate controls that give haptic feedback when a function is used. So there you have it, a quick overview of the all-new Panamera. Now, while the stylistic changes are very welcome, it's what's beneath the sheet metal, and especially that active ride suspension. It is world class, and it sure makes this thing sing and dance when you're on the racetrack. I'm Graham Fletcher for Driving.ca.